Marathon's visual language is heavily rooted in what Bungie calls graphic realism, a concept that synthesizes simplified, impactful design with the fidelity of the real world. This approach shapes every aspect of the game's aesthetics, creating an art style that feels grounded in a tangible reality while also embracing stylization. In this context, the graphic part of graphic realism means something that's simplified, deconstructed, a universal design language that has strong graphic and color statements with limited materials, while the realism component of it indicates that they utilize proportions and scale with implied functional details in a generally grounded world. Basically, graphic realism depicts something we could see in the real world with unordinary techniques of vibrant colors, materials, textures, and so on. It's a song of accents, contrast, and scales. Marathon's environments, objects, and character designs are rendered in a visually pared-down style where each form serves a purpose. Surfaces aren't overloaded with detail. Instead, the focus is on clean shapes and clear forms that convey their function without unnecessary visual noise. The game uses strong, saturated colors selectively. Graphic realism prioritizes a visual language that feels accessible and recognizable. The result is a world where signs, symbols, and objects have immediate visual impact and clarity. In keeping with the graphic approach, materials are simplified with textures that suggest their real-world equivalents. Metals, glass, or synthetic fabrics, these materials appear tactile yet minimalistic, balancing realism with a stylized clarity. Everything in Marathon is proportioned as though it could exist in our reality. Buildings, weapons, and armor have realistic scales, making it easy to imagine them as functional objects in a physically plausible world. The environments are textured with restrained realism, striking a balance between clean visual design and believable surface detail. This grounded approach allows players to feel as though they are navigating real spaces while still experiencing surreal and stylized sci-fi universe elements. After the first trailer, Marathon's art director, Joseph Cross, known for his work on projects like Dune, Destiny, the live-action Ghost in the Shell, Dead Space, Apple TV's Foundation, and much more, shared the sources of inspiration for developing the art style of Marathon. He described how elements from various influential works and industries merged to shape the game's unique visual language, Formula One and MotoGP. In both racing circuits, every detail, down to color schemes and material finishes, reflects precision, speed, and efficiency. The sleek, angular forms of F1 cars and MotoGP bikes are mirrored in Marathon's character and environmental design. Just as these machines are optimized for performance, Marathon's tech-centered world is filled with streamlined, aggressive lines and sharp edges. F1 and MotoGP use bright, eye-catching colors to improve visibility at high speeds, which is echoed in Marathon's use of neon highlights and contrast-heavy palettes. Bright greens, reds, and blues over metallic or dark backdrops create a dynamic, high-octane feel. The visible mechanics, exposed gears, and modularity of F1 and MotoGP machines are reflected in the game's intricate details, especially in weapon and armor designs that seem as though each piece has a specific functional purpose. Nike. Much like Nike's athletic wear and branding, Marathon's design is both clean and precise. Nike's designs focus on performance, which aligns with the implied speed and efficiency in visual language. The armor, suits, and weapons feel light, flexible, and engineered for agility. Nike is known for its iconic logos and use of graphic symbols. This finds a parallel in Marathon's glyphs, digital markings, and holographic interfaces. Ghost in the Shell. The 1995 Ghost in the Shell anime brought a deeply cyberpunk philosophical aesthetic to science fiction. The influence here is clear. Ghost in the Shell combines sleek, advanced technology with grittier industrial elements, a balance that Marathon captures in its futuristic grunge aesthetic. Marathon's lighting, heavy shadows on the bright surfaces with bursts of neon, echoes the layered atmospheric lighting in Ghost in the Shell, helping evoke an eerie, contemplative sci-fi setting. Just as Ghost in the Shell explores cybernetic enhancement, Marathon integrates digital interfaces and projections directly into the environment, creating a sense of interconnected technology within the world. Under the Skin. It is actually a weird inspiration material, but after a closer look, it becomes easy to understand. The film's minimalist sets and stark contrasts are found in Marathon's stripped-down environments, where key objects and lighting provide stark contrast to empty, cavernous spaces. This is the perfect example of the graphic realism trope, as we've discussed earlier, where lighting plays a huge role in helping portray a believable yet surreal scene. Under the Skin suggests an otherworldly presence through simple yet unsettling visuals. Marathon employs stark color contrasts and visual minimalism to convey a similar feeling of otherness and mystery. PlayStation 2 commercials. Sony's PlayStation 2 advertisements and many of its other experimental ads from the 90s and early 2000s were known for their surreal and boundary-pushing visuals. Marathon's design is clearly informed by this concept of surreal and sometimes confusing imagery that was featured in these ads. Both use abstract concepts and dreamlike visuals to evoke intrigue and mystery. I mean, you've probably seen something like that in one of your dreams. Sony ads often utilize sharp, angular typography and well-known X, circle, square, and triangle iconography, a style that's visible in Marathon's symbols and glyphs system. These elements reinforce a sense of unearthly communication in coded language. The Sony Y2K ads often feature dark backgrounds with shocking color contrasts, something Marathon uses to create a futuristic yet nostalgic feel that mirrors the ad's exploration of tech frontiers. Chris Cunningham, Autaker, and Aphex Twin. Cunningham's visuals often combine organic and mechanical elements, creating unsettling cyborg-like forms. The game's mechanical design suggests a blend of human and machine, much like Autaker's visuals. And while we're on the subject, I'd be remiss to not mention Aphex Twin's graphic language. Aphex Twin's Cyro uses a clean but psychedelic visual style with minimalistic patterns and stark, contrasting lime green color. Much like in Marathon, the monospaced font is also extremely similar. Now let's talk about works that share a similar aesthetic. These projects where the visual style immediately evokes parallels to Marathon. Mirror's Edge. Although Joseph Cross mentioned this game as an inspiration in one of his replies, it stands out more as a kindred spirit in aesthetic terms. In Mirror's Edge, we see a near-realistic urban environment elevated by striking color accents. The clean white architecture serves as a canvas for bold injections of red, orange, and blue, creating a world that feels both familiar and futuristic. Like Marathon, it uses color to guide the viewer's eye and emphasize key elements, balancing simplicity with moments of vivid intensity. A similar aesthetic can be seen in The Finals, where the environments are heavily inspired by real-world architecture, but infused with vibrant colors and sleek design. Flat, angular surfaces mixed with bright, minimalistic symbols and iconography. This creates a surreal but grounded atmosphere. The game shares Marathon's love for clean, high-contrast visual and bold graphic elements, while establishing a sense of energy and modernity in its design. The work of the Designers Republic on Wipeout is a time capsule of the Y2K era, arguably one of the most iconic examples of this style in gaming. The studio's design for Wipeout combines sleek, futuristic elements with an intense focus on branding, geometric layouts, and high-energy colors. Wipeout thrives on the balance between future realism and stylization, with in-game assets and environments that feel artistically heightened. The heavy use of minimalistic logos and typography in Marathon follows this lineage, firmly rooting it in a legacy of bold graphic experimentation. Teenage Engineering, known for its innovative design of audio devices and synthesizers, embodies a philosophy of functional minimalism, paired with vibrant aesthetics. Their products, like the OP1 synthesizer, combine sleek, retro-inspired interfaces with playful use of color. This ethos aligns with Marathon's focus on graphic realism, especially in weapon design, where the balance of functionality and bold design statements comes to the forefront. Both embrace a utilitarian approach that's elevated by its strong graphic choices, merging utility with the striking visual identity. The work of Metahaven, a design studio known for its experimental visual identity projects, has a clear kinship with Marathon's aesthetic. In particular, if we take the example of the Mitazine from the ARG, it immediately reveals this rebellious and almost schizophrenic style. The fragmented, collage-like layouts, saturated colors, and cryptic messages embody a sense of subversive energy. Both styles reject traditional design norms in favor of something deliberately disjointed and provocative, encouraging the audience to decode and engage with the chaos and rely on pushing graphic design conventions into a futuristic and slightly chaotic direction, making it feel raw. Marathon leans heavily into brutalist graphic design across its promotional materials, website, and branding. The visuals are marked by bright, almost neon colors juxtaposed against black or neutral backgrounds, creating a striking and somewhat aggressive visual contrast. In graphic design, brutalism throws traditional grids out the window, embracing unconventional, often jarring layouts. It takes inspiration from architectural brutalism, which emphasizes raw, unrefined, and highly functional aesthetics. It often features minimalistic, grid-based layouts, bold typography, and limited color schemes. This style intentionally disregards polish in favor of raw functionality, giving a rugged, utilitarian feel. It uses stark contrast, large text, pixelation, and heavy iconography to achieve a look that feels both retro and starkly modern. Before we conclude, I would like to touch on an important question. Is this still Marathon? Does the game have the right to bear the same name as the original trilogy, which is now approaching its 30th anniversary? The answer to this question is quite simple, though perhaps not obvious to everyone. Yes, this is still Marathon. The new game takes bold steps forward, but it does so with a deep respect for its origins. For instance, the logo, a simple yet powerful symbol, pays direct homage to the original. While modernized with sharper edges that replace the rounded curves of the old design, it retains the iconic form and unmistakable essence. This evolution reflects a bridge between eras, honoring the series' beginnings while embracing a sharper, more contemporary aesthetic. Striped patterns are a hallmark of Marathon's visual identity. They're deeply embedded in the new game's graphical language as well. Whether seen in the environmental textures or minimalist UI elements, they serve as a subtle yet effective callback to the limited design opportunities of the originals. These patterns are more than decoration, they are a part of the DNA that makes Marathon what it is. Then there's the phrase, "somewhere in the heavens," which is written in lowercase just like everything else on the new Marathon website. This typographic choice is deliberate, evoking a sense of understated confidence and tying the game's identity to its broader world building. It's a small but poignant detail that demonstrates how Marathon balances its reverence for the past with a sleek modern sensibility. The grittier concept art for the new game also brings to mind the work of Craig Mullins, whose visionary illustrations defined much of the atmosphere in the original trilogy. The sense of vastness, mystery, and tension that Mullins captured is alive and well in the new Marathon. This connection is not mere coincidence, it's a conscious effort to channel the same spirit, reinterpreted for a new generation. And all of this is just a small glimpse of the similarities we've already seen from the very few things the developers have revealed. The game takes place in the same universe fans know and love, expanding and enriching its scope. Though the visuals have evolved, the affection for the original trilogy shines through in every detail. We've already caught glimpses of unmistakable compiler designs and the beloved Marathon automated defense drones, or MADs. And it's highly likely we'll encounter even more familiar elements as the journey unfolds. Ultimately, the new Marathon is more than a reimagining. It is a continuation, and it captures the spirit of its predecessor while boldly charting into new territory. Canonically, Marathon also embraces the concept of multiple timelines, and this new addition to the series seems to fit seamlessly into that framework.